I've been coming across a lot of discourse regarding the idea of if you should niche your brand or not. And I figured I might as well throw in my sort of point of view regarding the topic. And to be honest, I may just be waffling because, firstly, it is quite an interesting concept. And it's one of those topics where you can just talk about forever because there's going to be pros and cons to whether you should or shouldn't. But then if we do it based on my philosophy when it comes down to brand building, more so we're building with a level of brand authority, then that is probably the best way to go about it for this video. And if you don't know what brand authority is your personal brand multiplied by your business brand multiplied by your campaign brand. When those three brands align, that gives you a level of brand authority that makes you more visible and credible to your desired target audience. And the whole point of brand authority for me is to be able to build revenue generating opportunities off of the back of your brand. I don't believe in vanity metrics, and I don't believe in the idea of just building your personal brand by itself. You are there to be a key person of influence and not just an influencer. So, you know what? Let me just share my screen for context and then we can get into the discussion. Let me know in the comments, actually, your thoughts now, just for context, and then I will let you know what my thoughts are. But if I share my screen and then let me go on full screen, because I have my trusty table for the 3B authority method, and that's what I use to signify the difference between your personal brand, your business brand, and your campaign brand. Matter of fact, let me move my face over here. So with this is how I go about the idea of building brand authority. So first and foremost, I believe that every one of us, especially if you are someone who is selling a service, you need to have a methodology that runs your ecosystem, a methodology that runs your entire ecosystem. For myself, as you know, that is the Phases brand authority system, and that runs everything when it comes down to how I go about working with clients, building brands, and working on my own brand as well, per se, right? So with that, you have your personal brand, your campaign brand, and your business brand. And you would hear me say often that with your personal brand, this is there for you to build a level of trust. Your business brand is there for you to build a level of credibility within the work that you're doing. And the campaign brand is the momentum engine in order to multiply the awareness of both your personal brand and your business brand, right? And that's the reason why I put it in the middle. So, with that in mind, I always think of your personal brand as something that is meant to be applicable for both your ICP and your IFP. And for those who may not be aware, your ICP is your ideal client persona and your IFP is your ideal follower persona. So with your personal brand, I personally believe that with your personal brand, you align your brand to target both types. With your campaign brand, I feel that is in your best interest to focus on your IFP. And for your business brand, I believe it is important for you to focus solely on your ICP. So with all that said, let me move on to the next slide for context. As you can see, this is an example of how I manage my level of brand authority. We have the Phases brand authority system, as mentioned, which is the methodology that runs everything. We have Tariq, myself, the brand authority strategist, PR accredited, right? Accredited PR practitioner, 30 under 30, PR week honoree, all that good stuff. Then we have the 4 stages of brand authority, which is me documenting the whole process, me documenting the journey, dropping one long form video every single day, and me building the 4 stages of brand authority as a campaign for you to be immersed in and to just use it as a way to continue to build and develop your level of brand authority. And we have Follow the Phases, which is the brand authority agency for fractional CFOs and independent finance leaders. So, with the topic of niching your brand, right? So, this is going to be quite interesting because, as far as your personal brand is concerned, when it comes down to niching your personal brand, it depends. And I know that's one of those silly sort of ones when people are just like, oh, it depends. But honestly, it really depends on who you are and what you actually do. And if I even use the example of university, right? I want to use an example of university for context. So when I went to university to study, I studied English literature, right? And truth be told, I studied English literature because I just didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do after university. I wasn't too sure whether I wanted to get into the realms of marketing, whether it was something of PR. At the time, I didn't know what PR even was, but the whole idea of communications or something is what I wanted to get into. At the time, the real sort of ambition for me was to be involved in the music scene somehow. If you are familiar with my content, you would have heard me time and time again. I used to run a music blog. I I feel like it was pretty successful, to be fair. I got tickets to various different events. I interviewed artists. I was doing press for all various different sort of venues, artists, all sorts of stuff. I was living the dream at the time. With that, you could argue that my sort of niche in that side of things was music, because I loved music and the idea of music. What I also enjoyed was the aspects of writing, right? I used to do the music journalism, so I used to write about a lot of stuff. But then when it comes down to it, right, with your personal brand, with my experience, and especially with me studying a broad sort of degree such as English literature, because you can do more or less anything. Not to say you can't do anything with particular degrees, but for argument's sake, I suppose before I was gonna say back in my day, like I'm that old, but back in my day, if you was to study something like law, medicine, accounting, any of those particular degrees, rest assured you are more than likely to end up working in that particular industry or based on the degree that you studied. For myself, because it was so broad, I could do more or less quite a lot of different things because the actual degree itself isn't going to put me in a box, let's argue. So, with that in mind, I always talk about the importance of brand authority pillars, and you would hear me talk about that a lot. And during that time, you would argue that my pillars was mainly music, writing, marketing to a degree. I'll say that's really it. But then now, as my sort of personal brand has evolved, a lot of things has changed in relation to what I would consider to be my brand authority pillars. And for context, my pillars is PR, marketing, branding, personal development, and AI. Those are the five things that I would use to describe myself as what makes me unique and what makes me aligned with my personal brand. Those are the things that I speak on every day. Those are the things that I work on every day. And those are the things that I can honestly speak on for forever, for argument's sake. So, with that, the niche isn't necessarily down to one thing as far as my personal brand is concerned. I have developed my personal brand in a way that aligns with the five things that I feel makes me uniquely me. And I always recommend people to do something similar when it comes down to establishing their brand authority pillars, because no matter what it is regarding your brand, you are going to have different things that to talk about, different things that showcase how sort of unique you are and to showcase your strengths in that side and the things that you are working on and the things that you are looking to improve on, and just all of your passion points that you can condense into the sort of top five most important is what you should be focusing on. So as far as a personal brand is concerned, you niching down your personal brand, I believe anyway, isn't something that is necessary. Unless your personal brand is solely designed for one particular thing, then I feel that there is no reason to niche down your brand. But then we have to bear in mind that with the brand, I have positioned the brand as someone who would be targeting both the ICP and the IFP. So if your brand was something where you were focused specifically on your ICP alone, then I would say to niche, because you niching down, you know exactly what your name represents when it comes down to your brand, right? as far as anything is concerned. Let's argue. Let me come up with something quite left field. Let me say a dermatologist, right? A dermatologist may have a personal brand as solely a dermatologist because that is their day job and they are known for that particular thing. And that is something that they will be able to speak on with the knowledge. They will be able to do the actual job that aligns very much with their business brand. But then it's very much a thing where when you come across that person, you only know them as a dermatologist. You don't know them whether they are involved in the future of AI when it comes down to that world. You don't know if they're interested in dogs per se unless they posted about it. You don't know if they have a particular sort of love for food and they're a foodie. You just don't know. You just don't know because they may have not positioned their personal brand to showcase any of those things because they know that they only want to be established as a dermatologist. So, with that in mind, if you are working on having your personal brand solely for your ICP, then you can argue that you can niche. That's no problem. That makes sense. However, if you are looking to diversify who you are looking to work with and collaborate with and how people know you, because people are going to know you from different places. Like, let's say Gordon Ramsay as a chef. I was watching his Netflix documentary the other day. His personal brand as a chef, right? And don't get me wrong, he does so much stuff on TV and all those other things as well. So with that in mind, his niche, he doesn't necessarily have a niche because he is popular anyway, which is another conversation that we need to cover. Based on your level of popularity, that will then change whether you should actually have a niche or not. Because some people are just so well known, there is no need to be a niche because they are their own niche. They are their own niche to the point where they don't need to put themselves in a box because they are ultimately the box themselves, if you get what I mean. So that is one thing to take into consideration. So if we talk about a local dermatologist, right, as we mentioned, 2A Gordon Ramsay, then you can then understand the difference between why you would niche and why you wouldn't niche, because in some cases there's no need. But then if you are someone who is looking to build their personal brand that aligns with the idea of how I go about building your level of brand authority, then I always say if you are looking to develop your personal brand for your ICP and your IFP, then you don't niche down, but you have your niche based on your brand authority pillars. So once you've established your 3 to 5 core topic areas that you want to talk on, that you want to showcase as that person, then you align your niche with those 5 particular areas as mentioned. So when anyone looks at me, when they look at me and they look at Tariq Peters, right, they will think PR, right? Because my journey so far regarding everything has been down to PR before I eventually left full-time work and got more immersed in everything else regarding building a brand from the ground up, I would argue. But then a lot of people may know me from the marketing side of things. A lot of people may now know me for the AI side of things in terms of what I do with AI. A lot of people may know me more so for the personal development side when it comes down to me mentoring young people or helping people regarding different things. Like those sort of things is what you build as your own sort of niche based on the main topics that you want to be known for. So that is what I would argue for the personal brand. But then when we look at the campaign brand, right? As you know, the 4 stages of brand authority is my campaign brand. This is for my IFP, my ideal follower persona. If you are watching this and you are interested in my content, then I imagine that you are also interested in the 4 stages of brand authority, because that is ultimately what I am documenting and showcasing to not only inspire, but to help you take action to build your own level of brand authority so you can unlock revenue generating opportunity for yourself. But then when you think about the idea of the campaign brand, as mentioned, because I have positioned it to be with the IFP, I have not niched it down towards that aspect. I have only niched it down to the actual concept of what it means. And that aligns with the idea of branding, right? You know, when you look at me, and some people will look at me and they may know me more so for the 4 stages of brand authority. Whereas some people who I work with directly as clients will know me more so for follow the phases as the brand authority agency. So with that, I would argue that if you are following this process anyway, the main part of your brand that you niche is your business brand. Because as you know, my business brand is aligned with fractional CFOs and independent finance leaders. That is the niche that I decided that I was going to work with based on all various factors that I've explained in previous videos. But the whole point is that the messaging, the marketing, the positioning, the way that I go about building relationships, the strategic partnerships, the way I engage with said people is very, very tunnel visioned in that approach. Is very focused on the niche of that particular audience because I need it to be like that in order to generate opportunity for myself, in order to have conversations, in order to close deals. It is most important for me. And that's the reason why I have broken this down like that, because a lot of the work that I do now regarding the follow the phases as the agency is all on LinkedIn now. A lot of the stuff I'm looking to do is to really build and develop LinkedIn as solely for follow the phases, and all my other sort of channels is mainly for the idea of amplifying my name and building the 4 stages of brand authority. So when you then acknowledge that, then you start to realize that the idea of branding, especially the way that I have developed it, can be quite different in relation to the idea of niching down, because you can see it's quite broad in a sense. And there's only really the aspect for myself of niching down towards my business brand. But as far as my personal brand and my campaign brand is concerned, I have not niched down to a specific area as you would have thought for other people. But I suppose it's more so because of my actual occupation and what I do and my interest as well. If you have any other sort of people doing different things, and I really do feel that it aligns with those sort of roles that are very much like you wouldn't necessarily be able to get into said role if you do not have the qualifications, or you don't have the sort of, permission to even do said things, if you get what I mean. All those roles, like being a doctor, being a lawyer, being an accountant, being a what else, a dentist, like all those things require a lot of effort, and there's a lot of barrier to entry, let's call it. Not to say there isn't any effort for other jobs and occupations, don't come for me, but I'm making the point to say that those sort of roles that have like a barrier to entry, I imagine that those are the sort of roles that still remain something that would then be very much synonymous with your personal brand, more so than other sort of roles. For example, myself being a brand strategist, where my role is very much based on the aspects of creativity, or building systems, or whatever the case. But I don't need a degree for this. There's no barrier to entry in terms of that. All I need to do is develop my own skill and to prove myself as someone who can do it. Like, there's no other, obviously I'm accredited PR practitioner, but you don't have to be one in order to do the work. It helps with the level of credibility in order for people to vouch for you, to say that you are actually qualified in doing it, but you do not need it. That's the point I wanted to make when it comes down to the idea of niching down. So I think that's it. I think, to round up, do you need to niche your brand? No, I don't think so personally, depending on your actual role, your occupation, and what you are looking to do with it. If you are looking to build a revenue generating brand based on the way that I have developed the Phases Brand Authority system, then you can argue that you do not need to niche down, because your personal brand is based on you building for your ICP and your IFP. Your campaign brand is for your IFP. Your business brand is the only part where you then decide to niche down. But other than that, you do not niche down, because there's no need to. Everything you're doing in relation to how you are developing the content and how you are breaking it down into various different places regarding social media is done in a way where you have designed it where the right people are going to find you based on what you are putting out and where you are putting it out. And based on that, the people who I speak to on LinkedIn per se is not the people that I'm going to be speaking to on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube per se. They may come across my content, but they know that based on the way that I have established the Phases brand authority system, that has allowed me to explain the process of how I work. And if anything, I think that is the most important part to end on this video. Regardless of anything in your niche or whatever the case, right? If you have a methodology that runs your ecosystem, then you are able to develop your niche based on what you want because you have your system that runs it. And in the grand scheme of things, if we look at the idea of the system, the Phases brand authority system is merely the personal brand. I am the one who created this system. I am the one who is documenting and showcasing this system in real time. Regarding the campaign brand, this campaign is me documenting how I am implementing the system, not only to myself, but to my clients as well. And through that, I am also teaching you the methods and the frameworks and the process of how I go about doing such things. The business brand is how I actively implement for my clients. They pay me to install the systems within their business in a way that can drive revenue for themselves, right? So with anything, arguably the niche should be your system. It should be your methodology rather than anything else. Your brand, you have the options and the choice in terms of how you want to differentiate between niching it down or having it as broad as feasibly possible. But as far as your systems are concerned, that will then allow you to have your personal brand to be as personal as can be. Your campaign brand is you just documenting the process, and your business brand is the only place where you really need to then niche down. So that's it for this video. I hope this was useful for you. Let me know in the comments if you agree, if you disagree. Let me know if you have any sort of thoughts in the idea of niching down. Do you feel like you have niched down within your personal brand? Do you feel like your business is even a business that has niched down? And I'll be interested in your thoughts as well. But yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. As usual, check out the 4 stages of brand authority website. Make sure you check out the masterclass series, and make sure you check out the playbook and download the free playbook so you can add that into your AI tool and go through the series whilst you use AI in order to help you build and amplify and sustain and do all the things that is necessary in order to build a reputable level of brand authority that will make revenue generating opportunities for yourself. That's it for me. Peace out, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Look after yourself.